Good morning, chapters 14 and 15 today. Chapter 14, Ghost Snot. Down in the darkness of the cellar, Stella stood silently, listening to Soot's real-life horror story. It was a very long time ago now, said the ghost. I was so little, my master thought he could push me up any chimney, whatever the size. He knew this house had the maze of chimneys and little tunnels, so I was the perfect lad for the job. Weird thing was, I had this really funny feeling when I walked in through the door. Soot became lost in thought. The light from his body cast shadows on the walls of the cellar. The shadows moved and danced as he spoke, painting pictures from his story like illustrations in a book. What do you mean, a funny feeling? Stella was intrigued. The ghost pondered for a moment. Dunno, like I'd been here before or something, but I couldn't have, could I? Stella searched her mind for an answer. As he had been abandoned as a baby and grown up in a workhouse, it seemed impossible that he had ever set foot in a great country house before. I wouldn't have thought so, she replied. Nah, I suppose you're right, my lady. Still, it was weird. So my master pushed me up the chimney, and I was doing me brushing with me ooch my flip. Brush? Yeah, with me brush. Me master had gone out for a smoke. The Lord love a duck, I noticed me bum was getting really hot. Hot? Asked the girl. Yeah, that's what I said. Hot. I looked down the chimney and someone had gone and lit the fire. Oh no, replied Stella. She felt for the poor boy. Who could have done that? Dunno, I never saw him. I cried for help, but no one came running. I guess they couldn't have known I was up there. Before I could say Jack Sprat, there was all this smoke coming up. The chimney was so blocked I couldn't climb up it. I was stuck. I was a goner. That's a horrible story. The little girl was imagining the whole scene in her mind. Of the hundreds of ways someone might die, this was particularly horrifying. Being trapped in a tiny space as thick black smoke enveloped you. A tear welled up in her eye and traced a line down her coal-blackened face. You crying again, my lady? I don't like to see a pretty girl like you cry. Somehow this made Stella cry more. She cried for Soot, her parents, and finally for herself. And that's my story, my lady, said Soot. The little girl dabbed her eyes with her nightdress and took a deep breath to gather herself together. So why did you stay here at Saxby Hall? I didn't have nowhere else to go, did I? Replied the ghost. Didn't have a home, didn't have a name, did I? So I couldn't even try to find my family in that place up in the clouds they tell you about in church. So I stayed here, going up and down the chimneys all night. I knew Saxby Hall was haunted, exclaimed the girl, but my mother and father didn't believe me. Soot smiled. Well, the thing with grown-ups is they can't see us ghosts. No. The girl was intrigued. Now, when you grow up, you stop believing in magic and all that, so you can't see anything that isn't really there anymore. Your mind has to be open, like a child's. How old are you, my lady? I'm nearly 13. Stella was very proud of this fact, and like most children, longed to be older than she was. Sometimes she would dream of being 16 or 18 or 21. She would imagine all the things she could do when she was grown up: drive a car, have a glass of champagne, stay up until dawn. Oh dear, dearie me, said Soot, shaking his head. What? When's your actual birthday, my lady? I need to know the date. My birthday is Christmas Eve. What is the date today? What with the crash and falling into a coma, the girl had unsurprisingly lost all track of time. I'm pretty sure it's the 21st of December today, so you'll be 13 in just 3 days. Yes, and that's good, isn't it? Asked the girl. No, my lady. You can see me all right now. You're still just a child, but when you turn 13, it'll all change. I don't believe you, said Stella sharply. There you go, retorted the ghost. You're still only 12 and already saying you don't believe in something. But, excuse me. With that, Soot put a finger up one of his nostrils and blew on the other. A globule of glowing mucus landed on the floor. The girl had been brought up to be a lady, to use the correct cutlery at mealtimes, to ask to be excused from the table, and to blow her nose on a lace handkerchief. She had never seen such disgusting manners. Do you mind? She said, rather offended. Keep your hair on, my lady. It's only a bit of ghost snot. With that, he changed nostrils and blew another globule onto the floor. That's revolting, complained Stella. Do you not own a handkerchief? A what? Clearly not. And now there's ghost snot all over the floor of the cellar, and I am not wearing any shoes. Soot stared straight at the girl. Look, my lady, it was awful nice to meet you and all that malarkey, but I don't think us two are ever going to be friends. The boys I grew up with in the workhouse weren't bothered by a tiny bit of snot. It's hardly tiny, protested Stella. In fact, there was much worse than that all over the floor in there. I shudder to think. One boy dropped his trousers and did an almighty... I don't need to know, thank you, replied Stella, cutting the boy off. Soot looked at Stella. There was an ocean of difference between them that seemed impossible to cross. I think it's best we say goodbye. With that, the ghost turned around to disappear back up the coal chute. Wait, pleaded the girl. Please. What now, my lady? Sighed Soot. I need your help. Chapter 15. The Ghost Detective. Climbing up a coal chute was not something Stella had ever imagined herself doing. However, right now, the new Lady Saxby was doing just that, following the chimney sweep up out of the cellar. Soot lit the way with his ghostly glow, pointing out where all the bricks that jutted out were, that she could use to hold on to. The ghost knew every nook and cranny of Saxby Hall's endless network of tunnels. The chute was used to deliver bags of coal down to the cellar, where it was stored before it was used in all the fireplaces in Saxby Hall. At the top of the long chute was a small hatch in the wall leading out to the kitchen. Climbing up the chute was hard work, especially for young Stella, who was tired and hungry. Just as she was making good progress, her fingers slipped on a piece of damp brickwork. Ah! Cried the girl as she fell down the chute, sending debris flying. She bounced off the sides, finally managing to stop herself by clinging on with one hand to a tiny piece of brick that was jutting out. Don't look down, my lady! Shouted Soot from above. Stella couldn't help herself. Immediately she looked down and saw how far up she still was. If she lost her grip, she would drop like a stone and no doubt break both her legs. I can't do this anymore, she shouted up in frustration. Yes, you can, my lady, just don't look down. I am not looking down, she protested. Reach for the next piece of brick. It's just up to your left. I am going to fall. You're not going to fall, reassured the ghost. Feel for that piece of brick with your hand. Have you found it? The girl reached out, her free hand above her. Yes, I think so. Now pull yourself up. I haven't got the strength. You have, my lady, I know it. You don't want to be left to rot in that coal cellar, do you? No, mumbled the girl. It was a little like she was being told off. Stella took a deep breath and pulled herself up. There, you can do it, exclaimed Soot. Step by step, he guided her up the chute. Looking up past Soot, Stella could see the patch of light above becoming larger and larger. Eventually, she had hoisted herself up to the top of the chute and clambered out of the hole. Shaken and exhausted, the girl landed in an undignified heap on the cold kitchen floor. Some of Stella's happiest memories were from this room. Having grown up with an army of servants, her mother had simply never been taught to cook. However, once the staff had to be let go after Alberta had squandered all the family's money, Mama was forced to try. Her cooking was atrocious. It became the stuff of legend. Yet all those cakes that never rose, or jellies that never set, or pancakes that were tossed into the air and got stuck on the ceiling were made with that most important ingredients, love. The young Stella would help her mother in the kitchen. Together they would make scones for Papa, his absolute favourite. Even though they would come out of the oven looking like gargoyles, once the scones had been heaped high with huge dollops of clotted cream and raspberry jam, they were absolutely yummy. When her parents were alive, the kitchen had always been such a happy place. Suddenly now, like so much of the house, it had become deserted. Sitting on the floor together, Stella told her new friend all about the events that had led up to her being locked in the coal cellar. How she had been in a terrible car crash that cost her parents their lives, a crash she had no memory of whatsoever. How she had been in a coma for months. How her Aunt Alberta was trying to keep her captive in the house. How the evil woman was desperate to find the deeds to Saxby Hall so Stella would have to sign everything over to her. How if she did, that she feared for her life. Who knows what wickedness her aunt had in store for her. How she had tried to flee to the nearest village, but the giant owl had captured her and brought her back. How there must be more to the tragic accident that killed her parents. How all this pointed the finger of suspicion at Aunt Alberta. Soot listened to everything the girl said with interest. And when she had finished, he thought for a moment. "It's all very fishy, milady," he said. "But if you want the old moo locked up, you need proof." "Yes, I suppose I do," agreed the girl. "Let's become detectives, just like in my favourite books." A bolt of energy passed through Stella's body at the thought, and she leaped excitedly to her feet. "Real-life detectives?" Sips was becoming excited now too. "And if we work together, we can look for clues. Now, where do you think we should start?" The ghost thought for a moment. "The garage. Find out what happened to the car." "Let's go, Detective Soot." "Right you are, Detective Milady." Enjoy the rest of your day.